Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I have taken time and watched Raila Odinga's video for the 3 hours. By the way, I watched that video for nearly 3 hours because I was so much held up during the day and I could not go there live. I've really missed it, but I hope that we will plug in the next. Listening to Raila Odinga's speech in Kamkunji, I was just wondering who was the speechwriter and what was the objective of that speech. It is a speech that I see a renewed energy to charge the masses towards a mass action. The crowd was highly charged, and that speech was very intentional and explosive. I want to play for you a snippet of that speech. We'll try to look at what was the objective, but then the gist of this analysis is why I do believe that Raila Odinga should not condone any sort of bipartisan talks, because as that rally was going on, there were calls from the government side for resumption of bipartisan talks. The fellows that had, and they were even giving ultimatums to Azimio to go back to table by next week. And listening to that speech, Raila Odinga should not think about going back.
Let us get to work. Tuanze kazi. Tuanze kazi. Tumesema hao watu wamesaliti jamii ya Kenya. Umma ya Kenya imesalitiwa na Bwana Ruto na wenzake, lakini Bwana Gachetha. Tumesema tulikuwa hapa Kamkunji grounds, tukaambia nyinyi tumeanza safari ya kilomita 1000. Unaanza na hatua ya kwanza. Tumewaonya hao watu, tumeliwaambia punda imechoka, tuliwaambia chumba imechoka, wamekataa, wamezidi kuweka mzigo juu ya punda. Sasa punda itawapiga teke, punda itapiga teke. Sasa tumesema Wakenya wametoka mbali. Mzungu walijaribu, lakini Wakenya wakale walisimama imara, wakamwambia mzungu, patia mbali, tutarudi Ulaya. Mzungu alirudi Ulaya. Ikaja serikali ya dhuluma. Bili serikali ilikuja hapa yafuata Nyayo na kadhalika. Tukasema hata wewe utatoka. Nyayo walienda, sivyo? Kama wale walienda, wewe ni nani? Wewe ni nani?
Now, listen to that. I've always said that one of the weaknesses, I don't know it's a strategy, it's a failing strategy or it's a weakness, but it's a strategy, and it's one that has never worked, is that Raila Odinga has embraced a lot of diplomacy. You know, there is a lot of name calling, but it's been taking a lot of diplomacy. All of us remember the 30th April mass action that was cancelled, the 30th March mass action that was cancelled was going to be the mother of all the protests in this country. And it was at the boiling point, but Raila pulled the elder and statesman card, and that rally or that mass action was actually cancelled. The objective of Kamkunji rally was to tell President Ruto that we are not going to keep quiet, that we are not going to be in silence, and because the people are not comfortable and they are asking what we are doing, we are taking the mantle and we are not going to keep quiet about it. I am convinced that Raila should not rethink the second mass action because it's gaining momentum. There is just a Twitter poll that has been done by intelligence agent. I'm talking about Mutahi. I want to believe most of what he does is just trying to pick up things from, try to test the ground for what the intelligence are looking for. He said, I think Baba is slow punctured, but I could be wrong. Mandamano swali, Ruto or Babaman? Then Ruto 34%, Babaman 47%, don't care or trust any is 18%. What do you think? So 34%, 18% don't trust Ruto. If you take this don't trust and this Babaman, you add that tally, you're getting to around 65. And if you've been keen, realize that most Twitter polls that are done, most polls that are done, puts those who don't trust government in the range of 60. There is a magical 60 distress number, distress percentage, the percentage of people that are a bit uncomfortable with the way government is run. It's a very clear message because that was done at 2 p.m. and it really shows you that people are tired. That mass action is gaining momentum. Kabando has been blowing hot and cold is saying in a Twitter, in a time like this, silence will be a betrayal. Silence will be treason. We have eyes we can't refuse to see. We have ears we can't refuse to hear. It is time for action, not talks. Raila mass action, non-payment of taxes, civil disobedience, Sabasaba. He continued and saying, Ruto will learn the hard way that Kenyans are fed up, not helpless. Ruto has messed up with people's food, fuel, and freedom. He did not listen to the people, and now he must be ready to fight. Sita simama maovu ya kitawala. He quoted some of what Raila was saying, and his quote, or rather picking up that, tells you something about Raila Team. That of course the team is actually regrouping. So it's very clear that it's true that as we speak now, the conscience of the people are Ruto is not getting it right. The population is actually revolting that Ruto is not getting it right. It is no longer about who won an election. Initially, wherever you will oppose, you'll be told you're opposing because you never won an election. And after listening to Raila Odinga's speech and looking at the way people are reacting, I am convinced that Raila must shut the door for bipartisan talks. I think for those who follow the bold, I've been on record saying that Raila made a political blunder to even listen to anything like that bipartisan nonsense. I had refused it from its inception, from the inception of the concept. This is why I believe that Raila should not rethink about the bipartisan talks in the wake of that Kamkunji rally, looking at how the mood in Kamkunji rally and how the people feel and the kind of charging that was done there. Let any other engagement, peaceful disobedience, if they're going to take that direction, be about the population. When you entertain a government narrative that when you go and talk to people about things that are not going on right, then you are told that the solution is in the bipartisan talks. Someone should not say that, because the protest, the disobedience, the issues being raised are raised by the people. It is by the population. So let me just say something. The ideology of President Ruto with bipartisan talks, it's normally a strategy to detach Raila Odinga from the masses. Ni kama you realize that Raila is already in the middle of a crowd and you want to remove him from that crowd. So the only way to remove him from that crowd is you bring in some very sweetener in the name of bipartisan talks. And because you know that MPs are going to get some very huge allowances from these engagements, they will, most importantly, and you know very well that around you, there are people that are also warming up for bipartisan talks, you go and pluck Raila from the crowd. Let me tell you, if those talks, if these protests were being led by someone like Alonzo Musyoka, you would have heard of Raila, of Ruto speaking about those bipartisan talks. So I think for the second time, Raila should not get it wrong. The first time, even stopping the protest to give chance for bipartisan talks, it was a statesman approach. And I remember they even juggled with that decision, because at one point they were like, talks will go on and we'll go on with the protest. Then when they got to the table, they were told, you either choose talks or mandamano. Then they decided, okay, fine, let's give it for the talks. Then the talks collapsed. So it is never about them. And I want to believe the problems and the issues raised before the masses cannot be midwifed at the bipartisan talks. Let's be realistic. President Ruto and the UD administration knew very well that they knew very well that finance bill is facing criticism and opposition from the public. And they suppressed bipartisan talks so that all the MPs or all their efforts and their attention will go to the National Assembly. After listening, doing one of the most elaborate public participation ever in a finance bill, credit be given. People gave in their input, and almost 80% of Kenyans rejecting the document, they used the numbers in the National Assembly and the document sailed through. So someone should not lie that now you want to bring seven members from Azimio and Kenya Kwanza and sit down and discuss things that Raila Odinga is raising about that finance bill. It's political conmanship. If someone wanted to listen the plight of Kenyans, civil society organizations, Kenyans of goodwill, even some companies, they appeared. Individuals appeared and they gave their feedback. So Raila Odinga should not allow to give the UD administration a mattress to sleep on. No. There is nothing. The talks are already ring-fenced. And immediately they get there. I remember when Sifana was saying that when they got to the bipartisan talks, this meeting brought the cost of living, the server question, and I think some Jubilee Party issue and affair. When all those things were brought, Kenya Kwanza brought a counter, and one of them was Raila to exit politics. And that's how the talks were crippled, and it ended there. So looking at the angle he has taken, I think let the public express. Kenyans are looking for a chance to express themselves. And I totally agree with what Kabano said, that it may not be about Raila. So, and that is why Raila should leave it to the public. He started it, he's a general with it, but he should leave it to them, because the moment you try to narrow down to individuals, the whole thing will change to be a Kenya Kwanza versus Azimio. When you start entertaining some 7 members Azimio, 7 members Kenya Kwanza, let's go and talk, I don't know, in Bomas, I don't know, in Kempiski, nonsense. It's not about the two parties. Give it to the Kenyans. The other third aspect why I believe that Raila must shut the door for bipartisan talks is it is an opportunity. He should not allow his opponents to regroup and restrategize. Let me tell you, I'm a very keen political observer. Truth be told, that last mass action that where that Nissan, that bus ilichomwa and some goons were unleashed, it was a very stupid strategy to unleash goons on the population to counter Azimio. And that was a very clear sign that the government side had already started acting in panic and were already off the cliff. They were already off. Let me tell you, the gentleman whose bus was torched, there was a fundraiser that was done 2 weeks at night, and the car was raised for him. While watu wengi sana vitu zao ziliharibika, there was no fundraiser for them. So because of that, you will start with police operation and brutality and here there, but it reaches a point where you can't. The more you change the strategy, the more the things become worse. I'm not praying for the worst, but what I'm simply saying here is, if he's taking it with what is given to the public, then he must leave the public with it. I think it's also an opportunity to craft a formidable team to forge ahead. Kenya Kwanza is politicking. They are mobilizing their members. They are doing party mobilization. So this should also be, it should also be an opportunity to create a new wave for political persuasion moving in future, especially by the fact that that is not William Ruto's first budget. There is a budget coming next year. So the more you create, you create a wave against this finance bill, probably even if this might not be rectified, which might not be easy, but in the next one, it can be there. The the Sabasaba has been called 7th because it knows very well President has signed it. And the appropriation is going to be done by 30th this month. So by that July, everything will be done. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my take. I'm coming back to explain why Oduor was chased from the stadium. I don't know. It's a very interesting one, I think. Make sure you don't miss that.